Good afternoon and welcome to a very special interview show of the Prode. Today it's my pleasure to have Professor Bibu Narayanan sir on our show. Thank you very much, sir, for agreeing to this interview and welcome to the Prode.
Thank you very much for inviting me to this platform. Okay.
Okay, sir, my first question to you would be please explain to our viewers that what is the relevance of a media house in a democracy?
Well, this is a highly contested question, especially in a democracy, especially in a democratic setup like India. So, are you pointing specifically towards press or the media system as a whole?
Media system as a whole, like
Okay.
all the three forms of media, including all the four forms, including digital, print, broadcast, and yeah.
Okay. As all of us know, mass media being the fourth pillar of democracy, is termed as the fourth pillar of democracy. So, though it has no official existence or any particular like judiciary or executive or
Yeah.
the legislature, so
Yeah.
they normally work under the constraints of the governance. Okay, so they normally act as an unofficial opposition. So in a larger scale,
Yeah.
democracy needs to be inclusive. So media
Yeah.
work for this sort of inclusivity. So they represent the larger cross sections of the society. So it's not just the representative democratic aspect. It's
Yeah.
related to human rights and diverse aspects of human societal interactions. So
Yeah.
mass media is very crucial in fixing all these norms in line in a democracy.
Yeah. Okay. So, which form of media do you believe is the most influential form in today's world?
I could say that all sort of media, like the all forms that have evolved over a period of time, has
Yeah.
its own influential capacity. But when we
Yeah.
think of the recent happenings or the recent developments across the world,
Yeah.
you can see the potential of the new media, right
Yeah.
from the strength of new media. That you might have heard of the Jasmine Revolution that happened in
Yeah.
Tunisia. Yeah, that's what.
Yes.
So the new media proved to be proved to be an influential actor, which is capable of dismantling the autocratic regimes in many part of the world. Okay,
Yeah.
but the problem is there are some serious concerns about the act of new media penetration. Okay, because as all of us know, new media is full of the major concern nowadays is the fake news spreading. Okay,
Of course.
so
Yes.
how to filter out the real news from the fake news is a major threat before us. So new media is now under that sort of credibility crisis. So credibility, we can explain credibility as perceived believability. Okay, so new media lacks that in many a times. So it's pressure from the expectations of the readers or the users. Another issue. Okay,
Okay. So
and
we have seen. Oh yeah.
yeah.
Continue, sir. Continue.
No, when and the all other forms of media, like the broadcast media and print media, they are in a position to imbibe the qualities like the interactivity, like the fastness and all other technological qualities of this new medium, in order to get in touch, get in a lively contact with the reader base. So that is the challenge before the traditional or legacy media to run before the spread of new media.
Okay. So how different is the print media today from the world from the period before globalization? Like, what are your thoughts and what changes do you see in the media
Yeah.
today? And if we compare it with the media before globalization period?
when we think of the Indian media system after the globalization or the so-called liberalization, privatization, and
Yeah,
globalization drives, yeah, that happened in early 90s. So
yeah,
you can see a shift that happened in the editorial priorities and editorial preferences.
yeah,
So previously, Indian media, even you can see the pattern, organizational pattern, the organizational structure, and the inflow of foreign capital through the
yeah,
foreign direct investment initiatives or the legalities. So all these things have contributed a facelift in one aspect, in another way, it's a makeover. So, but we have to think of the implications of the after of this transition. Okay, so after the globalization drives or the rampant commercialization, and after the neoliberal climate, okay, so the Indian media has changed its focus from the ground realities. So
yeah.
the editorial preferences, the editorial priorities have changed.
So
They
are you
became
are
more and
so
more.
So are you trying to say that there is a shift towards a particular the editorial? There is a shift towards a particular side or shift towards a particular ideology of the editors. Like editors have shifted toward a particular side, and they are like they believe in taking sides instead of writing what's correct. Are you saying this?
Yeah, absolutely. Because editors have the role of editors in the globalized industry have changed, and they became subservient to the interests of the capitalists. Okay,
Yeah,
so the rampant capitalism, and the hand-in-glove relationships between the unholy nexus between the politicians and the capital makers. So all these have created a situation where media is only serving the elites of this country, and there has been high level of criticism from the academicians and
yeah.
even the political class itself, and from of course from the layman, even those who are aware of these developments. So the
Even our
Indian
press
media,
freedom rankings have fallen. Even our press freedoms ranking are falling continuously. Yeah,
yeah, that's true. Yeah. So there should be editorial introspection. There should be editorial reinvention of the lost values of journalism, lost values of the public service journalism, and it is high time to involve or introduce or spread much more concerted effort to recapture the confidence of the people. Okay.
yeah. So how would you compare the Indian media before 2014 with today's one? Like which one do you find better and why?
Uh, can you repeat that question? Compare with?
How would you compare the Indian media before 2014 with today's one? Like media before 2014 and like media in the time of right wing government between versus the media in the time of a central wing government, which we say Congress is basically, yeah.
Oh, okay. Bit political. Okay. No, nowadays the major issue is the growing state surveillance. Okay,
Yeah,
the government is using uh, almost all available forms of digital technology
yeah,
for the surveillance of the media persons as well as the activists and all other political factions of this country. So
yeah,
this situation is not so common
yeah,
before 2014 or in the previous decade. Okay, so and the current scenario, you can very well understand that during this COVID pandemic, this operations, and all of us, or even the people of India, have given an sort of ratification for the governmental activities for this surveillance, as well as we are getting much more, we are relying much on the so-called authentic information. So from the government side, we have over reliance on this authentic information from the government side. So what constitutes this authenticity, and who creates this authenticity? That's a major aspect. And government, by using all sorts of surveillance, you can understand that. You might have heard that the Google report, every year they provide this Google transparency report, and Google, in that, Indian government is second among the countries of the world who grabs reports from Google relating to its user base. So all these situations, the right, especially under the right-wing government, the Indian
Yeah.
media is actually in a very sinking stage.
Yeah. So do you believe that Indian media has done justice in reporting COVID-19 or not? Like, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah. Um, when we talk about the COVID reporting,
Yeah.
we can see the limitations before Indian media, because as all of us know, lockdown have created even one of my friends in the mainstream media industry was confessing that all of them became amateur journalists, because
Yeah.
there was a restriction, because the mobility was cut off, and even there were huge restrictions imposed upon the media. They were not allowed to report from the site. They were not allowed to enter into the hospital premises, and they were blocked everywhere. So all these situations, under all these situations, they had no other way except believing upon the news releases released by the hospital authorities or even the government. So within the constraints, I think they have done justice, and they have tried to bring more news about the mismanagement of the hospital authorities and even the administration. But everywhere the surveillance was very high, and even many of them were. You should understand one aspect, that most of the journalists were under severe work pressure, because they were.
Yeah.
Because their position was not totally safe. They were their salary was not safe, and there was huge uncertainty. So, in the midst of all this, I think they have done their best.
Okay. So what are the major challenges that you face that today's media is facing, especially in the time of the Modi government in specific?
The major challenge is the our very the Article 19(1)(a) of Indian Constitution, that is the
Yeah.
freedom of speech and expression. So that is a major challenge before us, because I think the COVID climate have diluted the activities of or the actions from the government side. But
Yeah.
I fear that immediately after the COVID or the so-called issues, there will be a time where the government will be, the state will be a very much more stronger presence in the social sphere. And I fear whether the liberals and all those who prefer to voice their differences will have to face certain setbacks. So that's a major issue of freedom of expression, as far as the freedom of expression is concerned. And secondly, the over commercialization and the continuation of the existing capitalist paradigm. So there is no hope for, or there is no sign of a retract from the present path forward. So we have to be ready to we have to be ready to face the consequences, or for a more aggressive commercialized, capitalistic, and more aggressive crony capital climate that waiting
So,
for us.
so you believe that capitalism is the biggest threat to Indian media right now?
Capitalism, if capitalism is not inclusive, that's a major problem. So if capitalism, the concept of capitalism cannot be inclusive from
Yeah.
the very basic, that's a major issue. And when we think of the polity of India, majority of Indians are still under poverty, and they have no other income source. They are in a very maldeveloped state. So we need to redefine our development paradigms. We need to apply much more clear development goals. So I'm not expecting this is not just the problem of Modi government, because
Yeah.
for the past 20 years the government our governments have been in this route towards this. We took a U-turn from our the development conceptions. So that's a problem. So that's a real challenge before us.
Okay, so we have seen that the press freedom rankings of India are India is falling continuously. So how can India improve its press freedom rankings? Like, what are the urgent steps that are needed in this direction?
The thing is, we have some institutions, we have some regulatory bodies, we have some institutions for the preservation of press freedom. The Press Council of India is the best example. And
Yeah.
the sad aspect is that most of our institutions are not at all active. They are not at all proactive. They are not at all active, and they are not even. And next to HOP is judiciary. So judiciary should intervene in these issues related to press freedom, and we need at least we need a space to voice our differences fearlessly. So all our regulatory bodies, I'm not using the term, that may not be correct, regulatory, because regulation itself is it's a alarming word. So all our bodies, or our democratic bodies, should be given its proper space, and the judiciary should be given, and judicial intervention is very necessary, especially to recapture the political freedom of the press.
Okay, so you believe that media laws should be made more strict?
Media laws no, I'm not intended that. Because media laws, the existing media laws itself can hamper the press freedom. So we need to have a relook at the existing media laws, and especially the provisions included in many media laws. Or the Official Secrets Act is still it's still running, and the digital the provisions related to the Information Technology Act. So many provisions are detrimental to the press freedom, and even our one major hope for us was the Right to Information Act. And what happened to that act, as all of us know, was the derailed form of right to information. So this is a systemic issue, and the political parties and the non-governmental bodies and the larger communities, everyone should be sensitized about this issue for
Yeah.
reclaiming our, not just the freedom of the press, the freedom of the individual.
Yeah. Okay, so we have seen a lot of fake news in the last few years, and in like in last few days as well, and most of them were political. And so,
Yeah.
how can a normal person identify it? What is a fake news and what's real? Like, what are the basic things that are needed, basic sense that is needed? Like, how to figure out that it's a fake news or it's real?
Okay. For sorry, if you want to figure out fake news from the real one, the thing is you should have a media literacy. So that's a problem nowadays,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
most of the case.
Hello.
And another interesting aspect is that, unlike the West, where
Yeah.
have graduated from the gadgets, like they had desktops first and laptops, then they upgraded from laptops to mobile phones.
Yeah.
Unlike the situation, India is straight away, majority of the Indian internet users are using their mobile phones, and they are accessing the internet for the first time through mobile phones. Okay, so
Yeah.
you could see the penetration of mobile phones. So this is a real issue, and most of
Yeah.
the majority of the users are not at all aware of the media literacy aspects. So, as
Yeah.
a commoner, as a normal user, you
Yeah.
it is the duty of the media. It is the duty of the legacy media as well as the new media outlets
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
sensitize the user base to point out the issue of fake news and give them clear instructions to for rechecking it and cross-checking it and show them the best available platforms where they can do that. Okay,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it should be incorporated in the curriculum, school curriculum also, because even the current users, even especially during the COVID pandemic, most of the students are familiar with this all these platforms. So it is the right time to introduce these media literacy campaigns through the schools or through the online media the channels
Yeah.
where students are accessing.
Okay, so I would conclude. I would like to conclude by asking that a few months back we have seen a movement known as "print is proof," especially in the print media. Like this movement was carried out by some leading newspapers of the country. So, how important was that movement, and how do you see this?
Print is true.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's one of the major what to say, that's a hopeful element before the print media
yeah,
nowadays, because
yeah,
what we can see is the coming age, the most of the misinformation are being spread through the social media, and
yeah,
in coming years or in the coming future, the credibility aspect will be the major concern. Okay, and
yeah,
people will be more because they will be sooner or later they will be aware of the problems with associated with the fake news that is being propagated here. So print media can capitalize this situation. Okay, so they can very well they can use this situation to prove that the print is true as far as the existing media land or the information landscape is concerned. And so, and the high influx of fake news, and not just that, the clickbait sensationalism, and there are many more
yeah.
issues
Of
related
course,
with
especially
yeah.
in digital media, there's a lot of clickbait sensationalism.
That's what. That's what. And even trivialization of issues and many more issues are there. Though print media is not fully free from that. You can very well you can promote the this aspect of credibility. And one more thing, as Freddie Dawson divided India on the basis of the media landscape. He was saying that the first India, he termed first portion as first India, where digital
Yeah,
India, where digital medium is the dominant one, and the rest part of the India is he termed it as the second India, where the legacy media or traditional media is on its own. And you should understand that most of these first India or the digital India activities are urban based, and still the second India or the traditional or legacy medium users, they are most those media outlets are mostly vernacular press in India. So,
yeah,
and they are not under transition even now. They have broad user base. So, but within 10 or 50 years, they have to. There will be a situation where they had to transit their presence in both platforms. They should be, at least they should be hybrid, where. But at that point of time also, even in mainstream media, you can see Times of India, Hindu, and most of the major English dailies have gone digital, or they are being hybrid. But at the same time, they're they're using their print credential to expand their digital presence. So even that credibility is getting attributed to the digital channels, and they get much more users through this so-called credibility. So print is true in to some aspect, to some extent. That should be the hallmark of the future propaganda, future campaign, the print media should take up.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir, for speaking to us, and thank you very much for taking out the time.
Thank you very much, and I wish all the best to this platform. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.